Mother Jones found some old clips of Rand Paul when he was campaigning, and they dug up some stuff that the Republican base is going to absolutely despise, especially if/when he decides to run for president, more like when he decides to run for president. This is going to be a problem. So here he is, repeatedly attacking Ronald Reagan.
People want to like Reagan. He was very likable, and what he had to say most of the time was a great message. But the deficits exploded under Reagan. Domestic spending went up at a greater clip under Reagan than it did under Carter.
The deficit went through the roof under Reagan. So how long did it take Ron Paul to figure out that the guy he had liked, endorsed, campaigned for him? The very first budget. Ron Paul voted no against the very first Reagan budget. All the boll weevils, everybody lauded this great budget. It was $100 billion in debt. This was 3 times greater than Jimmy Carter's worst deficit.
Domestic spending went up more rapidly in the 80s than it did under Carter. You know, we wanted Reagan to veto a budget or to have balanced budgets, and he didn't do it. And it wasn't anything personal against him. I think his philosophy was good. I just don't know that he had the energy or the follow-through to get what we needed.
When we had Reagan, we were fiscal conservatives. Well, unfortunately, even that wasn't true. When Reagan was elected in 1980, the first bill they passed was called the Grand Ladder Bill in 1981, and Republicans pegged it as this great step forward. Well, Jimmy Carter's last budget was about $36 billion in debt. Well, it turns out Reagan's first budget turned out to be $110 billion in debt. And each successive year, the deficit rose throughout Reagan's 2 terms.
We were in charge during the Reagan term, the next Bush's term, this last Bush. The deficits were horrendous under the Republicans. During Reagan's 2 terms, domestic spending went up faster than Jimmy Carter.
The deficit exploded because domestic spending rose faster under Reagan, so did military, but domestic spending rose faster under Reagan than under Jimmy Carter. We have to admit our failings because we're not going to get new people unless we become believable as a party again. Why did the deficit rise? Because spending rose more dramatically under Reagan than it did under Carter. We say, well, Reagan's a conservative, Carter's a liberal. Not necessarily always what it seems.
Praising Jimmy Carter and attacking Ronald Reagan. If there was ever a sin to the right-wing base, that's it right there. But see, this is one of the reasons why I actually like libertarians on some issues. Of course, it's a love-hate thing that I got going on with them. On some things, I think they're great. On other things, I think they're absolutely insane. But there's no doubt that they're more educated, they understand history better, and they're more intellectual than your idiot establishment Republicans who just totally live in a fantasy land. So let me show you this chart that was circulating before the 2008 election that gives you the reality about the deficit and which political party did better and worse. So for everybody listening on the radio, it shows Ronald Reagan with the words fiscal conservative. Boom, $200 billion deficit. Fiscal conservative for George H.W. Bush. Boom, $300 billion deficit. Tax and spend liberal for Clinton. Boom, $200 billion surplus. George W. Bush, fiscal conservative. It says $482 billion deficit. And then it had the picture of McCain that says, my friends, you'll be pleased to know I'm a fiscal conservative. It's just a cute cartoon and a cute way of illustrating that oftentimes the people who say that they're fiscal conservatives, they don't give a shit about the deficit. They never did. In fact, there was a memo that was released under the Reagan administration where a lot of high-ranking officials had this idea that the best thing to do is to do a whole lot of deficit spending. So you pump up the private sector by doing government spending, and then the economy will boom. And then when you get out of office and a Democrat gets into office, you immediately blame the deficits that you caused on the Democrats. How nefarious is that? You do the thing that you're going to say the Democrats did, and then you blame them for it. Hilarious, but it's right-wing politics 101. Now, to go a step further on this, I think those numbers in the chart were taken from the middle of their presidencies, because the reality is even more stark. So George W. Bush didn't have a $482 billion deficit. Bush's final fiscal year deficit was $1.2 trillion. And by the way, what has Obama done if you add him into the mix? He has cut the deficit to $680 billion, and the number is trending down. It's supposed to be $500 billion shortly. So what you see here is a clear trend that the Democratic presidents are better with balancing the budget. Now look, to be clear, I'm not saying that's even necessarily an ideal goal, because oftentimes, especially when the economy goes south, it's not the right thing to do. You're supposed to do deficit spending, and that actually helps the private sector, and it actually leads to public deficits lead to private sector growth. It's just a fact of reality when you talk about economics. If you listen to any New Age economist, they'll tell you that right away. So it's not even necessarily a good thing, but the reality is that if that's something you care about, that, hey, we should try to balance the budget or lower the deficit, well, then the Democrats are better at it than the Republicans are. That's a stone-cold fact. And you had Rand Paul mentioning that and giving the example of Jimmy Carter versus Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan, those were record deficits at the time, man. Record deficits. But here's the thing, the part of the story that I love the most. The facts are now controversial. The facts are now political. So there's a lot of speculation about, well, this might actually destroy Rand Paul's chance at winning the GOP primary. And that's true, it might. But it's so funny to think that just bringing up facts of history that are provable, like, yeah, no, that might disqualify you. If you let the world know that 2 + 2 = 4, they might not like that, and they might vote you out.